Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About. And in this episode we're talking about SCP-001 yet again. But this time we're doing Dr. Mann's proposal, otherwise known as the Spiral Path. There's a picture for this article, and it looks like this. The text underneath the image says this is one portion of SCP-001. Just a reminder that the SCP-001 is a combination of many articles, and this typically means that it's meant to hide whichever the real one is. So you never know which article is the real one. It could be all of them, could be none of them, could be some or a few or one or none. You don't know which is the real one. This could very well be the real one, but you have no way of indicating that. Object class is EMBLA, which I don't know what that means, period. I just have no idea. The SCP Foundation does that, where they have random words for object classes that are like one or very few time use. This is one of those scenarios, and I don't know what it means. It's a short article, but there is a secondary bit, which much like the factory, if you go to that video that I made, it's just like someone talking. So when we get to that, I'll read through that just like the factory. But before that, there's an actual article. It's very small. Like, tiny. Without further ado, let us begin. Containment procedures are: SCP-001 is contained on the grounds of Site-0 in Upstate Redacted. A fence has been constructed around the perimeter of SCP-001's observed effects. In addition to Site-0's security, no fewer than 5 armed guards are to be present at all times to prevent unauthorized entry. The adjoining physics laboratory will be manned at all hours, studying any anomalies. So, this is called the Spiral Path. The image just looks like a regular forest path, and it's very heavily guarded and has a physics lab studying any potential anomalies. And I don't know what to make of that. I don't really know what this one is. There's a smaller paragraph, and that's the end of the containment procedures, and there's one paragraph for the description. The last bit of the containment procedures is: a small metal plaque bearing an inscription will be maintained in good condition. Any damage is to be immediately reported to maintenance. So there's a plaque with an inscription. As to what that is, I have no idea. It seems like they're keeping this thing in pretty high working condition to keep it safe, or working, or running, or just alive, maybe? I have no idea. Let's dive into the description to figure out what this is. SCP-001 is a circular gravel path in a wooded area. When traveled in a counterclockwise direction, the trail is continuously uphill, even after reaching the original point. When traveled in a clockwise direction, the trail shows the same amount of uphill and downhill travel as expected. So this SCP is a spiral path. If you move counterclockwise, you're constantly going uphill. It's a perfect circle path with no uphill, from what I imagine. Or maybe there is, but it's constantly uphill no matter what. And if you go regular clockwise, it's just a regular path. The same uphill and downhill there would be. But counterclockwise is continuously uphill. How does that work? And how does this warrant SCP-001 status? New members of Overseer Council are required to read Document 001-05, which is the thing I'm going to read very shortly. But in terms of the article, I don't understand why this would be a 001 entry. It doesn't, from what I can understand, it poses nothing. At least with the factory, that posed a large threat. This didn't. It's just a path, which I guess is anomalous, but it's talking about any anomalies that come out of it, so maybe it does something else. I don't know. But Document 001-05, this, I'm just going to read all throughout, and from there, we maybe figure out what this thing is. So without further ado, let me begin reading that. If you are reading this, then congratulations! One of us has died. Something killed one of us, a monster perhaps, or a rival from the GOC. Or maybe we just got a little too close to the flame. Like Aaron. Not old age, of course. We took care of that, didn't we? Anyway, one of the old guard is gone. Maybe Jason, maybe Agnes, maybe me. Hell, I'd be surprised if I wasn't the next one to die. I always was the most expendable. I'm going to write this to you as though you were a human being. It will be the last time anyone extends you the courtesy, so I hope you appreciate it. Whoever you are, or whatever you did before, you must have been high-ranking when you were pulled into this. You must have noticed the discrepancies, the inconsistencies. I don't know how much you've been told already, or how much you've pieced together. The crux of the matter is, the retrievals and recovers of SCP objects are staged, or made up whole cloth. We have never discovered an SCP in the entire history of the Foundation. I should start from the beginning. Let me tell you a story. Aaron Seigel was a physicist studying at Cornell in 1891. He was a truly gifted individual and had his life taken a different path. I believe that his name would have been there with Edison, Einstein, and Hawking. I knew him very well. He was, and may still be, my brother. He was also an avid amateur naturalist and enjoyed hiking through the woods. One day while visiting our family home in Essex County, we came across a gravel path. He decided to follow it for a time, and noticed that it kept climbing uphill far longer than it should have. It should have taken him above his nearby hills. Instead, he found himself back where he'd started, without a foot of downwards travel. Another man would have assumed his senses were faulty and left Aaron. However, he was a stubborn man. He investigated further. He found the path did not conform to the pure geometry of Euclid. Like Sachiri before him, he had found something abhorrent to the nature of straight lines. He studied it. The equations he derived are part of the file you've received. You'll learn them by heart eventually. He built a small shack nearby which served as a makeshift laboratory. His first experiments produced a key capable of opening any lock, now contained as SCP-005. He brought in others. As his brother, I was one of the first he contacted. I was a medical student at Harvard at the time. I initially thought he was mad, but when he showed me the path, the key, I had to learn more. There were others with us, other friends and colleagues. Most of them are gone now, but we were the core. We created the Foundation from around ourselves. In the beginning, it was just about discovery, about finding the things we could do. We had such high hopes, such plans. We were going to change the world. We were going to save it from itself. We could feed the hungry, shelter the homeless, heal the sick and the dying. Thomas Carter found us money. We were none of us poor, but we ran out of our fortunes quickly. Thomas used his connections on Wall Street and in Washington to fund us. He showed them the least of what we could do, and promised heaven against the threat of hell. Agnes Peterson, my brother's fiancée, was the administrator. We knew nothing of how to run an organization. We were a herd of cats running to and fro, and she turned us into a foundation, putting us dreamers and madmen to the same yoke. We soon had a facility built. We were still so secretive. As much as we wanted to shout from the rooftops that what we have found, we were frightened to. That it would be taken from us. We told ourselves it was just for the interim, until we were sure of our footing. We'd show them. Eventually, we'd show them all. We were careful at first. We made small, inoffensive, or even helpful items. The Fountain of Youth, the bouncing ball, the Civil War statue. We grew more confident, and we started working on humans. The Concrete Man, he volunteered. Or the Man with the Abominable Planet, just a drifter, but we made him something special, didn't we? It was all so easy. Perhaps it seems absurd to get so many things from that one little break in reality, but it all flowed. One discovery to the next, it almost seemed like something was helping us along. Things started to go a bit wrong. While he was playing with his equations, Aaron accidentally derived the missing number. In my laboratory, I found I'd made the zombie plague. But we were too invested in our projects, so we pushed ahead. Then came the pipe nightmare, and the stairwell. We knew we needed more help. Thomas showed what we'd done to the military, told them we found these things, discovered them. We made up names like Prometheus Labs and the Chaos Insurgency. They gave us funding, personnel. We built up and expanded outwards. We repeated the cell in other countries. Some listened, some didn't. Enough did. We became an international organization. We brought in more researchers, though very few ever suspected we were the same source of the items they studied. Sometimes we would arrange for an object to be found by a field team. Sometimes we would simply write the reports. We generated the paperwork, and we were the oversight. If we said a thing was, it was. And it still is. There were problems, of course. Jeremy and Thomas took one of our experiments and ran off with it, creating their ridiculous club. One of our researchers grew mad and started worshipping machines, escaping with enough knowledge to be dangerous. We still deal with the fallout of these splinter groups. So we contained them. We handled them. We couldn't stop. Surely you can see that. Rather than more cautious, we grew bolder. I cut a little boy up and turned him into the flesh that hates. There were reasons. There were always reasons. 231. We created her, and her sisters. We took them from orphanages and arranged for what followed. And it was no accident. We knew what we were doing. There was a reason for it once, but I'll be damned if I can remember it now. None of us do. Except maybe my brother. Wherever, whatever he is now. We kept moving forward. Even after Abel, after the blood pond, after that damnable reptile. We still moved forward with our work. What else can we do? Our only hope to survive the events we've set in motion is to understand better, to learn more. We're on the back of a terrible beast. And if we try to jump off now, we'll be crushed beneath. But that's not what frightens me. And it isn't what should frighten you. We've maintained our foothold for over 100 years. The things I really worry about are the anomalies we didn't create. No. I was telling the truth the first time. We didn't discover any of them. But some of them, they aren't our work. They just were one day. They were in containment, and they'd always been in containment. Don't you see, we're not in control anymore. We never were. And that is the whole article. So, from this reading, what I can gather is the path sparked something in someone to create the foundation, and that caused the chain of events to create this. If this article is the real one, that is what happened. The thing that's getting me, though, is nothing's real. If this is the real one, nothing's real. Well, it's all real, but it's not. They created it. If this is the real SCP-001 article, the O5 created everything, which I doubt. I don't think that's true at all. But they talk about making the Fountain of Youth, which you know, we already talked about in a previous episode. They talked about the flesh that hates, which that was a bit disturbing to read when I did read it, but also, if this is the real 001 article, that means it's not even a real threat. They made it for the express purpose of it existing, because why not? The last paragraph is saying things like, They just were. Like, they didn't make everything. They didn't discover everything, but sometimes things just appeared in containment, and they've always been there, apparently. And they're afraid that they're not in control. They're afraid that they never were. And as the O5, with that amount of power and the amount of resources at your disposal, that's a terrifying thought. How can you not be in control? Unless there is something else. Something otherworldly, something bigger that is controlling you. There's no way you're not in control. There's something, like, godlike that has to be doing this. Maybe it's to spite humanity for being too curious, or the Foundation, technically. But if this is the real 001 article, that means everything we've ever read is fake, and everything we will come to read is fake. I don't think this is the real one. Or I don't think this... there could be none of them are real, but I do not think this is a real 001 thing. It's just a path, and somehow they went from the path to making everything else, and I don't see the correlation. Maybe they're taking material from the path and they're just shaping it to whatever they want, but there's something else that isn't here, because there's no way you can make all of that with just nothing. Just gravel from a path. There's no way. It was an interesting read, but it's definitely not what I was expecting. That being said, I'm going to leave this video here. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe, as that really helps boost the channel. And yeah, thank you all so much, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!